Pulchra Somnium, Beautiful Dream, SP4SE_C4PT4N's Journey to the Beyond. First attempt, last of first batch, DMT, 50 mg vaporized, Puffco Pro, 1:30s at 420f, no music, blindfolded. Second attempt, first sample of second batch, DMT, 55 mg vaporized, Puffco Pro, 1:30s at 420f, no music, blindfolded. It was about 8 p.m. and I had just got done messaging a friend named T, whom I've recently come to for some anecdotal takes on his experience with the spirit molecule. Lit some incense and then worked on cleansing the room with sage and santo. She also meditated in front of one of the altars in the bedroom while I stretched out and tried to put myself in the right mindset for the trip. My heart was beating faster than I was expecting, but not enough to cause shaky hands as I took care in measuring out the proper dose. Off the scale and into the Puffco it went, the white crystalline powder barely covering the bottom of the reservoir. 50 mg, I thought to myself, that's a lot, considering I've heard that breakthrough doses start around 20 to 30 mg. This would also be the last of my first batch that I extracted this summer. After prepping the machine, I set it on the nightstand and climbed into bed, closed my eyes and began to meditate. Wisdom, knowledge, insight, clarity is the mantra I use. I repeat this to myself in hopes of pushing out any other lingering thoughts of the day or of the moments just before. I also use this as a reminder of what I'm seeking while I'm on my journey, and to not get greedy with what I'm hoping to see, mistaking my wants for needs. If there was a want, it was for a beautiful dream and to not be frightened or scared with what I experienced or saw. I wanted to be welcomed and to be considered friendly, a non-threat. I felt that if I made a solid enough effort with my pre-communication of intentions to the other side and hoped they heard and understood me. I sat in bed with my back against the pillows that were stacked up for me to fall back into when the time was right. I was cross-legged, with the blankets over me and with a protection stone from M nearby. I was comfortable and warm. After giving M some final reminder instructions on how I'd like for the process to go, usually a facilitator is helpful for taking more hits and encouraging you to take one more hit and so you don't drop the vape, I took a few deep breaths, pulled the blindfold over my eyes and double-tapped the power button on the device to initiate the warm-up. It was only about 10 seconds before I felt the buzz of the vape reminding me like an executioner that it was time. Without further hesitation I raised the piece to my lips and began to slowly fill my mouth with the magical vapor. I counted 5 long seconds before pulling away and inhaling for a moment. I held for maybe 10 seconds and then cleared out for another clean breath before taking the second hit. By the time I released the first hit, I could sense a lightheaded feeling and I could hear a slight buzz or fizzle, almost reminding me of nitrous. The smell of the vaporized DMT was wonderful, a floral fragrance or even like brand new shoes. Back in for the second hit I went, rinse and repeat. By the time I got done with the third hit and handed M the pipe, my sevs had begun and started with a black/bluish background. Later integration has me thinking this could be underwater, or not, or that I was in a womb or some type of empty space. As instructed, she asked if I wanted one more hit. I agreed as she brought it up to my mouth for one final toke. Although the ending puff wasn't a big one, I could tell I was on my way to somewhere special. I gently leaned back into the pillows, and I was treated to some interesting sights as well as some peculiar sounds. I can only describe it as alien. I know it's cliché, yet it's hard to deny the feeling I have while there. The visuals were a combination of deep sea, bluish-green with flashes of strands of colors, imagine Christmas ribbons maybe. They were bright golden tubes of DNA where the helix strands were green, blue and red. They were ever teasing me, like I was being led somewhere but couldn't catch them, not that I could or even understood what was happening at this time. It was the beginning stages of what I think I'll call the transition or travel. Maybe it was a tube, or I was in a womb. Consider it like psychedelic infrastructure that I hitched a ride on as it takes me wherever it's going. I surely didn't know. It all happened so fast but also at a speed you can understand, I guess. I'm recalling it like I was a kid using a Viewmaster and with each click of the shutter button my scene went from ride to destination to ride to destination. That's how quickly it was but wasn't. And somehow the more I integrate, the more I remember details of things I thought only flashed by me. I've likened this to an intermission as I only experience the dark, cold and motherly hum when I'm here. It also precedes anything substantial, full-blown euphoria and wonder, golden machine landscapes, animals or entities, tricks. The sound is kind of like if you're telling someone a story and they don't really listen but always say ah or mmhmm, except much softer and perhaps like an outer space whale hotline, maybe like the whales in Finding Nemo. As I would later realize, this is the telepathy aspect of the communication, and this cosmic cab ride was there for me to receive information and my opportunity to ask questions. Who knew? At the time, I just thought of it as a very pleasant oceanic soundtrack welcoming me to the realm. It definitely had tentacles. I'm pretty sure it was friendly, and as I noted above, possibly even motherly. This seems a common theme at this juncture in my trips. I arrived at deep shades of gold, orange and yellow that blended together better than I've seen any combination of flowers or other known natural beauty. It was blanketed as far as I could see, changing from gold to orange to red and yellow. It was kind of like a bunch of Lego blocks or Tetris pieces lifting up and off the plane and towards me with such intensity, and each one changed with such speed and possessed infinite detail. I was totally confused and astounded at the faces among other things that were popping out at me. It was just a landscape, and now it's a face that's changing colors in the very same landscape of gold Lego blocks from moments ago. It truly cannot be explained the amount of detail and how much I saw in a short time. Basically, the entirety of my vision was taken over by an all-encompassing golden needle toy, and the images or machine elves would protrude from it and then recede and change again. You're convinced you've seen everything, or this is everything. What else could there be, or let alone could you need to see after this? It's like being at some silly parade and not sure what you're doing there. These machine elves can seem aggressive too, kind of like a bunch of Mardi Gras clowns eager as hell to show you the coolest fucking thing you've ever seen, and then they proceed to blow your mind over and over again in an instant. And just like everything else in this ambient annihilation of my senses, they seem to speak without words, yet I understand. Wanna see this? Check this out. They're genuinely happy to see you, but you can't really tell since it's all happening so fast. I couldn't even direct my view to or away from anything because these gestures keep showing me things faster than I can comprehend, and I end up just completely eclipsed. I wish they would slow down so I could take more time to look, but when you look it's something completely different anyway and continues to evolve. It was a constant flux of colors and shapes as far as I could see. They were dancing and morphing and becoming everything but nothing imaginable, yet everything amazing. I remember their faces coming at me as they smiled, a cheese bigger than you can imagine, eyes giant and white, yet they were very simple circles with a black dot in the center. Their block bodies not really making much of an appearance, maybe only subtly as I could see a brick-like leg or the torso pushed through. Eventually their jig would end along with the greatest party in the history of this space suburb. Before I could say my goodbyes, I was in an empty space, a bit off-white and not quite like an old map. But it started to become one as I saw come into view a golden city to my left, and out of it flew a bee, complete with dash marks as it trekked from one end of view to the other. I was high above the city as it shrank smaller, and the bee grew a bit larger. This bee was very basic in its shape, but not in overall appearance. A simple black outline of the abdomen and head along with 4 wings and a couple of stick legs. The neat part about it was the flow pulse of its colors, gold, red, blue, green and maybe more. I can't recall any more, but it was very lovely. After contemplating the nature of the bee for a moment, I wondered how in the world would I take back any of what I witnessed. How would I share this wonderful experience with anyone else? It was at that time I was almost instantly back into the space taxi listening to psychedelic pillow talk from Mother Alien. Maybe they're like a boatman of sorts, taking you in and out of limbo. There were low, warm hums mixed with the occasional octopus-like tentacles fishing into view from left to right like windshield wipers on a rainy day in outer space. Although not as colorful, it was equally mysterious and vast. As I write this, I now feel this DMT driver could perhaps be my guide while in the black hole boogie. I think I'm okay with that. With no time to grasp what's happening, I find myself in a white room that blends to a gray-blue on the right as it stretches upwards to create the vulvic shape of a raindrop or somewhat of a holiday ornament. And in it shined a very bright, but never blinding light. I'm amazed at its simplicity and humbled in its presence, and was just happy to be there as I observed its Morse code flicker like a candle. Maybe that's another way to think of the raindrop I just mentioned, the shape of a single candle flame, only blue and white. The energy and air were clean and crisp here, and I realized, oh shit, this is my chance to ask a question, and I've literally been sitting here in front of the great and powerful laws of creation thinking cool Christmas lights. Like a kid who was called on unexpectedly in class, I didn't realize it was my turn to speak. How do I create? Was all I could muster in my attempt at communicating with the energy. Creativity was one of my pre-trip intentions that I was hoping would be sparked or ignited if given the chance to make art on behalf of the experience. I enjoy writing, but not painting so much, yet seeing as I have plenty of inspiration now, I'm hoping I can convey even a fraction of what I saw into a craft worth looking at. I couldn't understand the language from this definite female energy, but the hums persisted with an answer that I think I'm only now, slowly figuring out. Perhaps she is the one who's been communicating via telepathy while on the ride over here? A flash of the bee came into view/thought, and I'm realizing now that I received my answer. I was given the warmest, most euphoric exit out of the realm from beyond. I was hugged goodbye, smiley face, and I could feel myself come out of the trip as the colors went from blue/white to white and then black. I began to grin and could not believe what just happened. Pulling the blindfold off as I smiled to him and said like an adrenaline junkie fresh off the latest thrill ride, "You have got to try this." My dog Dutch was next to my side of the bed, and he must not have liked the blindfold or something, but he barked and alerted me and licked my hand as I re-entered the world of the living. "Thanks, bud." As it turns out, my open-eyed visuals were still going, but only in a moderate tryptamine way, very organic but having so much detail you simply must stare for a moment. And I did, at Dutch and his 3 eyeballs, one extra between his left eye and left ear, before laughing to myself and pulling the blindfold back over my eyes for just another quick peek at what was left of the visuals. It was too late, they were gone, and I was returning to baseline, and it wasn't even 10 minutes off the clock. There it was, the beautiful dream I hoped for. Convinced that I missed a lot of information and needed to go back right away, I loaded up another 55 milligrams, first sample of second extraction, and proceeded to assume the position in bed for another attempt at blasting off. I really wanted to visit that golden city in more detail, maybe this time without the entities blocking my view. I felt, at the time, that I wasn't quite there yet, breaking through, and I wasn't sure about the telepathy at first either, yet now I'm reconsidering this notion. I wanted another shot at it, and I thought now was better than ever to go for it again. There was minimal anxiety when I'm asked if was sure I wanted to do more, casting some doubt as to whether I should or not. I pushed through and forced myself into a better mindset by repeating my mantra just beforehand, steering out any prior thoughts. As it turns out, I don't think it was as effective as before. Click click went the vape as the temperature started to rise, vibrating once it reached 420 F, reminding me to shit or get off the pot. Same format as before with them facilitating and me toking. First 3 hits, I hold the puffco and then pass to her as I think I've done enough. It's at this time she asked if I wanted one more and I declined immediately. She confirmed with again? And I went Something was different about this trip, it was darker and emptier, if that's possible. During my travels this time I wasn't treated to the exact same hospitality, either. The cab ride was shorter and Alien Mother wasn't as talkative. I knew I was at my stop when I was kicked out of the tube and into the pool of lava complete with faces that appeared in the molten ceramic tiles of the Golden City. The illumination burned a retinal pleasure unmatched. I was back and happy to be here. But that feeling didn't last long as it turned from sheer beauty to confusing rhythms of aggressive gestures with tube-like arms getting closer then fading. Each of them would kind of have a type of back and forth to them. They seemed harmless and fun, but at the same time like you can't really trust them. If you remember Jim Henson's Labyrinth, picture these entities partying like the Furies. They think it's all fun and games, and given the chance they'd likely take your head off to play ball with it. This instance was many times odder and more intense than before. And just when I think my mind is overwhelmed with marvelous splendor, they show me something even weirder. All of a sudden the blanket of bumping yellow and orange bricks was replaced by a new view of the city itself, one I hadn't seen before, one from the inside. It was a nice setup with glowing buildings on the left halfway up my view, complete with sidewalks of golden river that ran blue and red. As my view panned from left to right, I see what appears to be what I can only describe as an entity, perhaps machine elf or jester in a singular orgy with itself or masturbating, I don't know. I saw it happening and I wanted to avoid looking at it, feeling like it was too personal, something between the entity and itself, you know? It was unavoidable however, as my eyes were magnetized to it, I was in its trance. As soon as the radiant figure locked onto me it was too late. The jester jumped towards me and now I'm alone in a colorful box or room with an even smaller, darker box in the center. It was as if he ate me and now, I was in his stomach. The message I received was "We gotcha." Shit, I thought to myself. How the hell was I supposed to get out of here? I didn't even know where I was at the time nor how I even got in here. All I wanted to do was get a better look, but they got me, tricked by the cosmic comics themselves. Later integration would have me realize that I was inside a toy Jack in the Box and the joke was on me. I was so eager to return and see more of the Golden City in all its glory, but instead was presented with a shapeless figure morphing into and blossoming out of itself. Amazing, right? The more I look, the more it pulls me. This perpetual motion of eternity in such a small and faceted object is ineffable. The panic started to set in as the message "We gotcha" repeated. I realized I fucked up and shouldn't have went back so soon, but now was no time for lament. As I was trying to figure out how to get out of the box and how long I was going to be in there, I thought to myself how worse it could have been had I taken that fourth hit. Maybe it would have been better, drunk. Either way, the jokers trapped me and I needed to get out. Rather than stay in a useless panic, I went into problem-solving mode. Thinking, alright, I'm in here and I know I smoked DMT earlier, so this is a trip and will end sooner than later. How will I get out? It may have been since the panic didn't take hold of me, the entities realized they weren't getting the reaction they wanted and just kind of let me go with we're just messing with you. I was in a psychedelic headlock with an entity who was acting like an older sibling giving you a noogie. I tried to convey respect to the pranksters as if I got it, realizing it's not always pretty pictures, and it can get dark and scary too. I honestly thought I was going to be stuck here for a very long time. As I was released from their grip, I found myself outside of the box and a flash of what appeared to be a busy terminal overlaid like augmented reality goggles. Although I could feel the terminal was busy, I only witnessed two entities. A purple alien woman to my right and a very tall thin man in a business suit was moving from left to right with a quickness. This was actually my second time seeing the businessman entity. The flash of the terminal was gone just as quickly as it appeared, and I was on my way back to reality. I could speak now and called out for him to hold her hand while petting Dutch's fur with my other. I was back and so very thankful, yet I instantly wanted to go back, feeling again like I missed their secrets. I can hear it calling to me, like a siren from ancient mythology. I can almost hear it, yet words cannot describe the bizarre and strange happenings when smoking DMT. All of this in under 1 hour. Oh, and as part of this psychedelic pyramid scheme and letting me out of the jack-in-the-box, the businessman entity cut a deal with the jesters that I would recruit or turn on at least 2 or more people. I'm halfway there. Hopefully by my next visit I'll have filled their quota and I'll be treated to another beautiful dream.